it's a little terrifying because you absolutely cannot miss.
Goalies now are completely at a premium.
Not, right? Like, Canada doesn't have a ton of great options.
What's up, hockey fans? Welcome to the Hockey News Big Show. I'm Michael Traikos. With me, as always, Ryan Kennedy, editor-in-chief of the Hockey News. And pleased to welcome to the show again our BetMGM betting expert, Gary Pearson. Gary, joining us all the way from down under in Australia. How you doing? What time is it right now, Gary?
It is midnight here. Feeling good, but it doesn't matter what time it is here as long as we're talking hockey, right? That's really all that matters. The good thing is I get to watch hockey midday here, which is actually quite brilliant. I'm loving that.
Yeah, right. I was up late last night watching those Toronto Maple Leafs, and those are probably 2.5 hours, and I'm not going to get back. But let's get things started with the Atlantic Division. And, we're 2 weeks away from U.S. Thanksgiving, which has long been used as a barometer for whether a team is going to be playoff ready or not. And, there's still time, but I don't know if you guys are really paying attention to how the standings are shaking up. There's a lot of congestion, especially in the Eastern Conference, where the top team is only 4 points ahead of the third worst team in the Eastern Conference. And there is now a three-way tie for top spot in the Atlantic Division. So we've got Montreal at the top, tied with Boston and the Ottawa Senators. All of them have 22 points. Ryan, I will start with you. Of these three teams, who did you think would be leading the division right now?
Who did I think would be leading the division?
Or who do you think is going to end up winning the division?
Well, of those three teams right now, I kind of think the most legit is Ottawa. And I say that because they've been doing this without Brady Tkachuk, their captain and, best player for my money. If you look at Ottawa, Montreal, and Boston, in terms of like the fancy stats, there's not a ton that separate them. Like Ottawa has the best Corsi rate right now. But when it comes to PDO, they're all basically the same. Like nothing's really out of whack. So it's kind of like, this is what you should expect from these teams based on the way they're playing. It's not like, they're getting like crazy goaltending or a crazy shooting percentage or anything like that at 5-on-5. Like it's all kind of, where it should be. So I do think all three of these teams have proven something already, but to me, the Senators have been doing it with one hand tied behind their back with the lack of Tkachuk. So it's kind of the most impressive to me right now because I didn't think Boston would be as bad as some people thought. And sure enough, they've been pretty good. But to your point about, American Thanksgiving, I think this might be a year where we have to toss that one out because the standings have been changing basically every night.
Yeah, we may have to change it to Valentine's Day or something like that.
Yeah.
How about you, Gary? Like, obviously, Montreal and Ottawa were both playoff teams last year. Boston, after missing the playoffs last year, they lose Marchand at the end of the year. Very much look like it could be another year where they're just kind of looking at a top 5 draft pick. Instead, they've got a better record than the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Florida Panthers, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Is that kind of shocking in your mind?
It is. I mean, it is slightly. I have to wholeheartedly agree with Ryan, though. I mean, for me, it's the Sens. Like they're doing it without their heart and soul, their leader on and off the ice. Not only that, but like Linus Ullmark is not playing where he intends to or should be. Like he still has the worst goal saved above expected in the league. They have the second worst PK in the league. So special teams, I mean, their power play is pretty good. But again, like their power play is going to improve markedly with Brady Tkachuk back in the lineup. I know they haven't really got a set in stone timeline for his return, but if they can kind of tread water on this road trip, which is a biggie. I mean, they're on the road for 10 of the next 13, 7 in a row on the West Coast. That's going to be a pretty big litmus test, I think. But I'm on board with that. Like, if Ottawa's tied at the top of the division right now with all those factors at play, I think things look good for them. And they went on quite a few big runs toward the tail end of last season as well, I think. So I'm on board with the Sens. I think the Bruins will probably go through a dip. They lost 7 in a row to start the season, near about 7 in a row, and then they've won 6 in a row before obviously losing to Ottawa. So I think that they're gonna incur a dip coming forward, and Montreal, like, they're the youngest team in the league, right? And it's almost 26.9 years average. So I think that they're not going to be able to sustain the level that they're at. They're a really good young hockey team. Also, they're scoring well beyond what they should be according to expected goals. I think they're ranked 24th in expected goals, but 6th in actual goals. So there's a big discrepancy there too, and there could potentially be a regression. So I'm on board with the Sens.
All right, let's stay in the Atlantic just for a little bit, because I was at the Toronto versus LA game last night. It was another game where the Toronto Maple Leafs just completely imploded in the second period. Obviously, they're outshot. They ended up losing in overtime. It was, right now after 18 games, this is the worst start to the season for the Toronto Maple Leafs since drafting Austin Matthews, if you can believe it. And, obviously Austin Matthews is out right now. The most concerning part for me, though, is the Leafs have had arguably the most favorable schedule in the entire NHL. Like, pretty much all their games have been at home. 4 of their opponents so far this season were playoff teams last year, so they should really be beating up on the opposition. Instead, they're not. Ryan, how concerning is this start for the Toronto Maple Leafs? And now that they're missing Matthews and looks like he's going to be out for at least one more game, maybe 2, as well as both their goalies are unavailable right now, how concerned are you that they can turn it around?
Well, I need to wait until Joseph Woll is in the lineup and getting regular starts in the crease, because I think that's such a huge factor. And as you mentioned, Stolar's not available right now either. But, if Woll is there and taking up half the starts, then all of a sudden Anthony Stolarz doesn't have to play like 80% of the games as he was before he went out. And that was obviously a crucial problem. It was not a workload that was conducive to success for Anthony Stolarz. And I think we saw that. And, if you look at what we just talked about with the standings being all congested like that, that is the saving grace for Toronto. And I know what you're saying about the schedule. It has been, pretty favorable, a lot of home games early on. I will say it is interesting, though, that there are a few teams, and they are all major market teams, that are doing way better on the road than they are at home. Yeah. Los Angeles is one of them. They're practically undefeated on the road and have barely won at home. And then the New York Rangers, who just got their first home victory recently, but they're Titans away from Madison Square Garden. So, maybe the Leafs need to be on the road. We know that their fans can turn on them pretty quickly when things go badly in a game. So I do need to wait for Woll to get back, because this was not the strategy of how this team was going to operate, with Anthony Stolarz playing as a, Martin Brodeur-esque starter of, 65, 70 games.
No. So, Gary, obviously Ryan's picking Joseph Woll as the guy that's going to drag this team out of the dumpster. Who are you looking at?
To Ryan's point, I think that Toronto needs to go on the road as well. Like, even just to take a little bit of the pressure off, they're holding their sticks so tight at home. And also, like, they were top 3 on the road last year. So they need to spend some time together on the road, hopefully to build some chemistry, camaraderie. And, we're not going to mention the Mitch Marner name at all, are we? But devoid of him,
you get fined $1 every time you say his name, by the way.
Okay. I don't want to go too far into my piggy bank here, so I should zip it. I think that my player, in the lineup, I have to say John Tavares. He needs to pull him out. Out of the lineup right now is Chris Tanev. He is just so instrumental in what they do. They are 2-3-1 without him in the lineup, and they just look like a shadow of themselves. Like, he not only leads on the ice, he leads off the ice. He blocks pucks with his head. He does everything that you can imagine for your team. He's a warrior. Every single teammate that's ever played with Tanev, touts how highly about him, that they respect him. He's venerated, league wide for what he does, the intangibles that he brings to the team. Again, I guess there's no timeline on his return because it was a pretty serious injury, and you never know with head injuries. But they need him back in the lineup, and if they can again tread water, and Wall is so important right now, as Ryan says. But for me, it's Chris Tanev in the lineup. Tavares, because of who he is, he's a leader. He's a former captain. He's got 11 goals. He needs to pull everyone up by their bootstraps. But for me, most importantly, is getting Tanev back.
Yeah. Well, Tavares with 2 goals on Thursday night against the LA, though it happened in a loss. Those Kings, man, they started off poorly. They are now second place in the Pacific Division. You mentioned Warriors. I'm going to mention a guy who's known as the Worm, Corey Perry, who was famously booed by the LA crowd in their opener. It's hard to break old habits, I guess, after seeing him in a Ducks jersey, just vilifying those Kings over the years. But, are the Kings looking like a legit team again? And let's start with Gary. Like, what do you make of those LA Kings who year in, year out, doesn't matter what they do in the regular season, we know 2 things are going to happen. They're going to face the Edmonton Oilers in the first round of playoffs, and they're going to lose. So are you feeling like this team could be different, Gary?
I was going to say that. I mean, like, as long as they avoid the Oilers in the first round, which is a bit of a difficulty right now with Bettman's playoff structure. And also, actually, with Perry in the team, like, you almost feel like they're Stanley Cup bound, because how many cups has Perry been in now? I mean, don't get me wrong. There is the curse of Perry. He is losing a lot of those finals.
It's a nice curse.
It's a nice curse to have, right? Like, there's a lot of teams that would take that curse on board, right? So, no, but in all honesty, I think that they are a strong team. Like, as Ryan said, they're better on the road right now than they are at home, which was completely the flip of last year. They were one of the best teams, if not the top 5 in the NHL at home. And they're a tough team to play. They're defensively structured well. There was some concerns about their bottom pairing in defense with CC, but he's starting to come around. Darcy Kemper is playing really well again. Now, he didn't start the season as well as he ended last season. I think last season he ended the campaign with allowing 2 goals or fewer in 15 of the final 16 games of the season. And that Kings team was so dominant defensively last season, and they have that in them. A lot of those games were at home. So I think that they're a sneaky good team. Again, can they upend the Oilers in the first round of the playoffs? I don't think so, but if they avoid the Oilers in the first round of the playoffs, then I think that they can be a sneaky good team, and they can do some damage.
Ryan, we were talking to Jim Hiller after the game last night, and to Gary's point, he was talking about Drew Doughty and how he's putting himself definitely on the radar. I think he even used stronger words to talk about Doughty's bid for the Olympics, but that LA team, what do you think of them? Are they better than last year's team so far?
I don't know if they're better yet, but I do really like them. And I believe that I picked Los Angeles to go to the Stanley Cup, maybe in the Hockey News yearbook. I make several predictions in the offseason, and I never remember where they go.
You spread out all your picks.
I spread them out.
You're like, I was right.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. It's going to be a Columbus-San Jose final. I called it in a blog on August 3rd. No, but the Los Angeles Kings, what I like about them is they have a lot going for them, and Kemper's coming around, which is nice. Corey Perry, I don't know if he had a point last night, but he was a point-per-game player since he got into the lineup, which is pretty wild to think that Corey Perry was on an 80-point pace. Given how many NHL games he has already played, and that we know that he tends to turn it on in the playoffs. Yeah. But, Quentin Byfield is in the zone right now. He had the OT winner on an amazing shot there. Great give and go with Doughty. And there's a lot of motivating factors for the Kings this year. You mentioned Drew Doughty in the Olympics. I mean, I think Hockey Canada likes him a lot, and they probably want him to be on that team, not only for what he can do on the ice, but just the leadership and his personality. He's a guy that keeps things loose in the room, and that's key, right? And we saw it at the Four Nations, guys like him and Brad Marchand. Also, Anze Kopitar, this is going to be his last year in the NHL. what better way to do it than to win one more cup in a Los Angeles jersey? I'm sure all his teammates, I mean, they all want to win the cup anyways, but how amazing would it be for their captain to lift that chalice one more time? It's just those little things that, you can put in the back of your mind and say, like, we got to push just that little extra mile. So, the fact that they've kind of turned it around after a slow start, I think is really positive. And yeah, we'll see where it goes from here. Again, like with the standings, we were sort of joking, they always play the Oilers, but who knows? I mean, they might end up playing the Kraken in the first round at this rate.
Yeah, interestingly enough as well, like Corey Perry, he has 7 goals in his first 11 games of the season, right? So this is good for the elder statesman, which, I'm obviously a part of now. Yep. After the 40th birthday, he has the most goals in the first 11 games, tied with the great Gordie Howe. And no one has more. In the first 11 games, 7 goals after the 40th birthday, which is absolutely incredible. So yeah, that's. I mean, it is kind of the season of the elder statesman with all the wily, grizzled veterans that are playing out of their minds. So,
no, that's really cool. And yeah, you mentioned like obviously hot starts from Evgeny Malkin as well, and Sidney Crosby, and Ryan mentioned Drew Doughty. I guess he's sort of an elder statesman at this point in his career. So, one guy who's not an elder statesman, kind of the other end of the spectrum, is New Jersey defenseman Simon Nemec, who. Not making a ton of noise in his first couple of years, but now he's got 12 points in 17 games after a surprising hat trick, in my mind, against the Chicago Blackhawks. Nemec is only 21 years old. He was the number 2 overall pick in the 2022 draft. Ryan, you are our draft guru. He's making a lot of people in New Jersey look smart, because they could have had Logan Cooley. They could have had Shane Wright. They could have had Cutter Gauthier. Instead, they went with defense for a team that now has a pretty good stable of young defensemen. Obviously, Luke Hughes, my boy Seamus. I don't call him Seamus, Casey. So what are you making of Nemec's hot start?
Yeah, I think it's really nice for him, because he has been up and down the past couple of years. And we all know defensemen take longer to develop, unless your name is Matthew Schaefer, in which case you just stroll into the NHL and become a superstar. But with Nemec, it was weird because he went straight from the podium to the NHL because New Jersey had some injury problems. And, that was not the plan. Right? Like, you wanted him to get more seasoning first, but that's what it ended up happening. And then I think there was an expectation where it's like, oh, he's in the NHL, he's just good to go. But no, it took some time for him to continue to learn the game over here in North America, to get stronger. I mean, he's a great two-way defenseman. And, if you look at the Devils when they drafted him, a couple of factors, they did not need a center because they already had Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. But also that was, one of the pandemic drafts where, we were really, you don't have the same development years, and there was a little more guesswork. If you redrafted today, maybe Logan Cooley goes number 1. Who knows, right? I mean, the Habs are perfectly happy with Juraj Slafkovsky, but you play those sort of hindsight games. And I think now it's nice to see Nemec like get a foothold. They still have Dougie Hamilton, who's their veteran, their power play 1 guy. And then you have Luke Hughes, who I'm sure, I know for a fact from the summer, Jack Hughes, his brother, wants to see Luke Hughes get more power play time because he knows what his brother can do. So for Nemec, it's nice because there's not a lot of pressure on him in that regard anymore with Luke Hughes coming up. So he can find his role, and he doesn't have to be a guy that gets a ton of points. But what we saw there the other night against Chicago is he certainly has that capability, and that's great for New Jersey.
Gary, is there any long-term BetMGM futures on Nemec winning a Norris?
Wow, can you imagine what the odds would be for that? Yeah, I think like he's showing a lot this season. He's actually averaging less ice time now than he was in his rookie season, but that's to Ryan's point. Like, he wasn't expected to, he shouldn't have been in that position in his rookie season. I think he was averaging over 20 minutes of ice time a game. He's at about, I think, 18 and something now. That hat trick was for me really surprising. And he was look where he was in overtime as well, the opponent's blue line with the good old 3-on-3 overtime with Markstrom just tossing it up there for him. So it's really cool to see. I mean, he has more goals in the first 17 games of the season, however many they've played, than his first 97 in the NHL, right? So that's pretty incredible. Even if he doesn't go on the continue in the same trajectory, he's still got more goals this season than his first 97 games. It helps that his shooting percentage is at like over 18%. I think his previous best was 7. But yeah, it's a really cool story, and I love seeing players that are drafted that highly take a little bit of time to mature and develop. And again, as Ryan said, like it takes longer for defensemen to develop usually. So I think it's a really cool story. I hope he continues on the trajectory he is, because there's a lot of room for that in New Jersey, especially with how fast and skilled that team is. Like you get a lot of offensive chances even on the blue line. So I think it's a really cool story. I'd love to see him continue and go from strength to strength from here.
So as I mentioned at the top of the show, we're now a month into the season, nearing U.S. Thanksgiving, also nearing the quarter mark of the season, which means there could be some trades happening. Hopefully. Hey. I want to see trades. I don't know about you guys. But,
sure.
Let's make it like the NBA, right? I mean, where there's just trades every single week.
It would be great. Well, I guess the problem is there's so much congestion. It's like no one's really kind of out of it, so they need to make a trade. Although there are rumors swirling around the St. Louis Blues, mostly around Brayden Schenn and Jordan Kyrou. Schenn has attracted plenty of attention heading into last year's deadline. Didn't end up getting traded, but Ryan, Schenn or Kyrou, who do you think is more likely to get moved?
I kind of feel like Brayden Schenn, because with Kyrou, you would really have to make a big deal to get him based on his age and based on, I know he's sort of struggling this year, but we've seen the upside with him, right? I mean, the offense, the speed is fantastic with him. With Brayden Schenn, you're getting that playoff style forward, a versatile guy that can play center for you. And, at this stage in his career, he knows he's not necessarily going to be that, 23 minute a game number one, but he can help a team win another title. He has that Stanley Cup experience. So I do think it'll be interesting to see what happens with him down the line. Also, what the return is, because if you look at St. Louis, this is a team that is in the process of Doug Armstrong, their longtime GM. He's going to be making way for Alex Steen. They have the succession plan already announced. So how does he set the table for Alex Steen? Does he get more futures for Brayden Schenn, and those just become assets? We know that the St. Louis Blues have a very good prospect pipeline. I think it was maybe a year or two ago, they had like 11 players at the World Juniors, and they were substantial players. We're talking about like Dalibor Dvorsky, Jimmy Snuggerud, Otto Stenberg, guys like that. So there is more help coming from the Blues, but they are in that sort of awkward stage right now where they still have a lot of good veterans and guys like Kyrou and Robert Thomas who are in their primes. So I think Schenn is somebody where you kind of say like, okay, well, we do need to move on to the next generation. Schenn is going to be, an all-timer in St. Louis, thanks to, what he did for that franchise. But I do think that he would be the obvious one to sort of set the table for the next generation.
Gary, Kyrou, Schenn, which one is heading to Toronto?
Yeah, it's got to be Schenn for me too. I think like he's just indispensable at any team at the moment. Like he who doesn't want a second line center that's got the winning pedigree. He's experienced, who's a leader, who can do the intangibles, who can lead both on and off the ice, but is also a really good hockey player. Like I think he's such an asset for any team right now. His salary's really palatable. Like it was $6.25 million, I think. And I think he's only signed for the next couple years, so that's also pretty good for a team, whether they want to extend him or not. Is that that could be in the pipeline too? But that's a really cool, not a rental maybe as per se, but a short-term fix or a short-term buoy to try get a Stanley Cup in your locker. Kyrou, like obviously he's very talented. He was healthy scratch last week, which was interesting. So obviously they're either sending a message. Then again, he was healthy scratched against the Buffalo Sabres. So maybe they thought even we can beat the Buffalo Sabres without Kyrou, and they did. They shut him out 3-0, right? So Kyrou's a right winger. He's still valuable, obviously, very skilled, very talented player, younger, still in his prime. But I don't think he's as valuable as Schenn. Schenn, the center down the middle, is just so crucial in the playoffs as well. And his salary is higher. I think it's over $8 million, which again is more palatable with the rise in the salary cap. So, but for me, it's still Schenn.
All right. You mentioned palatable contracts. Get a load of this one. $1.5 million for Jack Roslovic, who was signed on October 8th. I had to check it. I thought it was a late August signing. You guys said September before the show. Turns out it was October. So good things come to those who wait, because Roslovic, who went to the Edmonton Oilers after being rumored pretty much everywhere, has now points in 8 of his last 10 games. Ryan, is this the best offseason signing when all is said and done and we're looking back at what was free agency?
It's a pretty fantastic signing for the amount that they got him for. Yeah, I mean, you'll take Jack Roslovic for 1.5 any day of the week. I think this is a player
for 3.5, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm sure that's what his agent was going for. Yeah. Maybe that's why it took so long. Yeah, I think with Roslovic, he's at his best when he's a north-south guy, and he's got that great speed. And I think he's just fit really well with the Oilers, right? With that top 6, it's like, and Zach Hyman not yet back in the lineup due to injury. They're not exactly the same player, but they have some similarities where, again, they have that great athleticism. And yeah, it's been a great fit. And I mean, he saved their bacon. I know they lost to Columbus last night, but they beat Columbus in a game that the Jackets literally just threw away. I mean, when you're, I need to rant about this for a second because I work from home. If you're up a goal and you have a power play with 2 minutes to go, you should not lose that game. But Columbus managed to do it. They gave up a shorthanded goal, and then Roslovic won it in overtime against his old Blue Jackets team. But that's the sort of thing you can count on from Jack Roslovic, not necessarily all the time, but he has that game-breaking ability because of his speed. And I just feel like the Oilers are deploying him very nicely right now, and everybody in Edmonton is winning. The team, Roslovic, is hot, and it'll be interesting to see. The Edmonton hasn't been great this year, but what do they look like when Roslovic and Hyman are in the lineup?
Ooh, yeah. There are a lot of armchair coaches, Ryan, who were wondering why didn't the Blue Jackets just play keep away and not even fire a puck on net?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why was Denton Matejchuk, a rookie-ish defenseman, on the ice at the same time as Connor McDavid?
Yeah, it's a head scratcher, that's for sure. But yeah, it is
Gary,
a great.
What do you make of the Roslovic signing so far?
Yeah, it's a brilliant signing. I mean, how can you not say that? Like $1.5 million for a player like him. Now, I mean, like he's I think had 2 20-goal seasons in his career thus far, right? But he's already got back-to-back overtime winners in Edmonton. Now, again, without Hyman, he's getting more of a chance on the PP1. But like playing with people like Draisaitl and McDavid more so on the power play, Draisaitl more so, as a permanent kind of second liner. What middling offensive player isn't better with those guys? I mean, anyone that goes to Edmonton is going to be better. Like it's just a fact. Like they're playing with the most creative and the best players in the world. So it's for him. Like I mean, he must have been counting his lucky stars when Edmonton signed him. But he's doing his part. Like, and again, it takes some adaptation period to whenever you go to a new club and a new environment in a new city. They're not robots, so it's going to take some time to adapt to life there. I think he had 1 point in his first 8 or 9 games, but like he is on fire, and I expect the trajectory, probably not to continue the way it is, but he's going to sustain a decent pace. His best season previously, he was 0.71 points per game. That was in the abbreviated COVID season. Now he has 0.71 right now, and there's no way he's not going to go over that. I'm pretty sure like he's going to end up at like 0.85 points a game. And, that's my opinion, unless he gets demoted significantly when Hyman comes back. But if he keeps producing, that's not going to happen. So I love the signing, and I think it's great for the Oilers. Like, if they can sort out some other issues, which we won't mention on this show at the moment. But yeah, brilliant signing.
Yeah, memo to GMs: wait until October next year. Don't worry about July 1. Just take off Canada Day. All right.
How many people are kicking themselves? So yeah.
And with that, we go to Gary's favorite segment of the show. This is the BetMGM Playbook. And Gary, we're going to be talking today about the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes. And it's never too early to talk about who might finish last in the NHL regular season and put themselves in a spot to perhaps draft the next franchise stud player. So you wrote a really interesting story this week at thehockeynews.com. 5 NHL favorites for fewest regular season points. Let's start with the Sabres, who are the worst team on the road. I'm surprised they're not the worst team at home as well, with the way that the season has been for them. But they're sporting a 200-point percentage. How could at least a few wins on the road help this team out?
I don't think at all. I think this team is in real peril. First of all, Lindy Ruff's seat must be hotter than Papa Bear's and the Goldilocks with his porridge. It is really hot. They've lost 8 of 9. They haven't won a game on the road yet, where they're 0-5-2 on the road. It's pretty dismal. Interesting enough, on a bit of a tangent here, the Ottawa Senators in 1992-93 had the worst road record in the NHL history, and they had 1 win. If you can believe it. I had to triple check this because I just couldn't. I thought it was unfathomable. So
just to get Alexander Digg, is that what they were going for that year?
So I don't think they're going to be that bad. I don't think the Sens won their first home game. Their only away game, until April, which is just staggering. But they're not going to be that bad on the road. But they are a pretty poor team right now. They need something to galvanize them, to give them a shot in the arm. I'm not really sure what that's going to be. They play on the road. Is it today or tomorrow? And then they, if they lose that game, they have 2 more before December. So there's an actual chance that they'll go into December without a road win. So they're in a bit of a perilous position, and it doesn't look great right now. Their confidence is sapping away. So they're going to be teetering around the bottom of the league for a little while, unless things can turn around pretty sharply.
Hey, Ryan, some of the other teams that Gary's got mentioned here are Chicago, San Jose, and Calgary. Any of those teams, do you think, can overtake the Sabres for worst in the league this year?
Overtake the Sabres? That would be tough. Although I will say, Calgary would probably be my pick out of that group. Yeah. With the Sabres, they are in a tough division, but there are some other teams struggling around them. With Calgary, we're actually seeing more Pacific teams being competitive than we anticipated, right? And if you think about Anaheim, in particular, even Seattle, and I know Calgary and San Jose played the other night, but San Jose is another team that hasn't been as bad as we thought they would be in general. So I would put Calgary in that category, and they could certainly use the skill that Gavin McKenna brings to the table. Yeah,
fingers crossed on that front. So I'm from Calgary, so I have a slight bias here, but my fingers are crossed. I'm pulling for a first overall pick for the first time in God knows how long. The Flames have been a mediocre, middling team for way too long. We won't go into the ownership issues there, but to finish 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th for 25 years, something needs to change, and to finish last this year would be outstanding for the future of the franchise. For me, they're going to finish last. I just don't see too many other ways around it. Obviously a lot can change, and they still have some veteran presence on the team, but pretty much everyone is underperforming. There's a real lack of confidence. I'm not really sure how much farther Ryan Huska can take them under his tenure and stewardship. As I say, pretty much everyone is on career kind of low trajectories for their point totals, aside from Jonathan Huberdeau, who is on pace for the second most goals as a Flame in 4 seasons. So right? take that how you will. He's on pace for about 22 goals, which isn't exactly staggering either, but Everyone else seems to be underperforming. They can't score goals, and that if you look up and down the lineup, there's a lot of reasons for that. Like Kadri has 4 goals. He's on pace for, I think, 16 goals, which would be his worst since 2018-19. Sharon Govich scored 31 on his first year in Calgary. He scored 1 or 2 goals. You have Connor Zary, who's only scored 1 or 2. Uyghur last year scored 19, and for an iota was mentioned in the Norris Trophy conversation. Obviously, that was never going to happen, but he was mentioned, and he scored 19 goals last year. He doesn't have a goal this season. So when you look up and down the lineup, you can see why they're struggling so much. And then on the other end, like Wolf is having some regression in his sophomore, not true sophomore season, but his second full-time number 1 season. There's a lot of problems in Calgary, and I don't see enough of them being solved to get them out of the bottom dwellers position. And they're also, I think they've only got like 12 points, so they're already 8 adrift of teams like San Jose and Chicago, and so I think they're in real trouble.
At least they're getting a new rink. One team that we didn't mention, Nashville Predators. Quite honestly, I think it's probably going to go down to Buffalo, Nashville, and Calgary when we're talking about who's going to get the greatest odds for Gavin McKenna. So one thing for those teams to look forward to. One thing for hockey fans to look forward to is the hockey news in magazine form. Yes, for over 75 years, the Hockey News has been the ultimate hockey fix. Now you can get 12 issues delivered straight to your door, packed with stories, stats, and a bonus gift issue. There we go. That's the Prospects Unlimited issue, where Ryan and his team ranks, what is it? The best players under the age of
21 and under.
21 and under.
Yes.
So head over to thn.com and get in on the action. And now we just had Gary's favorite segment. Let's go to Ryan's favorite segment, which is Rapid Fire. All right, boys, you know how the game is played. Keep things rapid and short. Let's go with Ryan first. All right. Name a player that is thriving on his new team this season.
I'm going to go with Artur Shilovs in Pittsburgh, the goaltender, putting up pretty good numbers. I think he's a .916 save percentage right now. His record, they have points in almost every game he has played in. I think he's 4-2-3 or something like that. And this is essentially a gift from the Vancouver Canucks. And then, of course, you look at Vancouver right now and Thatcher Demko pushing through some injuries. It looks like maybe that was a poor decision in Vancouver to get rid of a goaltender who can get you wins when you need them. So Shilovs, I think he's been great for a Pittsburgh team that's been, frankly, resurgent.
Gary?
Yeah, mine has to be Corey Perry. We're talking about 40-year-olds. I mean, he's got 7 goals. As I say, like rarefied air. We're talking with him in the same breath as Gordie Howe. Please, that's flabbergasting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Nikita Zadorov. And, he's become public enemy number 1 in both Toronto and probably New York, or Long Island, I should say, after his big hits on Austin Matthews, as well as Scott Lawton. Both guys are injured right now. So, and then he also took down the youngster, rookie Matthew Schaefer. So Zadorov not making a lot of friends in the NHL, as well as amongst NHL fans, because he's been clapping back at fans on Instagram and just really kind of showing his goofball personality, as well as just how big of a hard hitter he is. So the Big Z, living up to his moniker, definitely in Boston.
And Michael, I don't appreciate the way he departed Calgary either. Like he was a bit of a, he was a want away. Let's just say he was not happy, and that didn't go well with the Calgary fans. So yeah, he's in my bad books too. I hope you're listening, Zadorov.
You better be careful, Gary. He'll get on a flight to Australia.
Yeah, exactly. That's worrisome.
Right. Speaking on getting in flights, the NHL is flying over to Sweden for the NHL Global Series. It's taking place this weekend in Sweden between those Nashville Predators and the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's a battle of yellow. It's kind of weird because whenever I think of Sweden, I just think of those yellow jerseys in the trade corner. It's always been held in Germany, Czechia, and Finland. Gary, what country do you want to see it held in next, and why is it Australia?
Yeah. Well, there's no ice rinks here. No, that's not true. Okay, so it would be, for me, it's Slovenia. It would be Slovenia. Ljubljana. I love the capital. Well, pretty much because I want to go back. But it's a really cool place, and they're an up and coming. They're a decent team. Like, they've got quite a few players that are top caliber. At least they were. So yeah, it would be Slovenia.
Who are you, Ryan?
All right, so I'm going to go with Norway. And since we're looking at the future here, this would be a game in a couple of years, because you could go Michael Brandstad-Nygaard and his Detroit Red Wings versus the Anaheim Ducks, who have an up-and-coming Norwegian themselves in Stian Solberg. Both of them played at the World Juniors for Norway. Both of them were NHL first-rounders. This would be a cool way of having sort of a next-generation feel to the game. And Norway, as Gary was saying with Slovenia, Norway, a pretty good hockey nation already. It would be nice to reward them with this sort of big marquee event. I'm
gonna say China, and just because it is so massive, like the potential is obviously there. Obviously, the NBA keeps going over there, so I think it's probably gonna happen sooner rather than later. But it just seems like it's a market that the NHL probably wants to tap into. All right. Question 3. In 4 games since shaving his head, what a smart man. Artemi Panarin has 3 goals, 6 assists, and 9 points. Kind of a reverse Samson kind of move here. He did this as well before the 2023-24 season, and he went on to have a career year, posting 49 goals and 71 assists, as well as a +18 rating. So should he do what I do and just stay bald at this point? Gary?
Unequivocally, yes. I mean, it's just so. It's just
this
so much.
Feels like this is kind of like a rhetorical question, right?
Yeah, I tell myself at night. Every time I go to bed, like I'm doing this involuntarily, right? But it is something that you got to do. It's easier. It's the aerodynamic nature of it as well. Like, he's flying around the ice with a bald scalp. So yes, Artemi, well done, and keep it up.
You're right. You like the bald look on.
Well, I'm clearly the minority. Yeah, I'm clearly the minority here. My barber charges me double. It's so thick. No, it works for Panarin. I love the superstition to it. I mean, we know hockey players are superstitious, but Panarin, it's just such an obvious one, and it works for him. So yeah, keep going with it.
No, it's pretty awesome because, like, in Toronto, William Nylander's kind of got like hair as thick as yours, Ryan. Like the helmet just kind of sits on top; it doesn't kind of go all the way down. And Panarin, it's just like, I don't know, is he going bald? Is that kind of the secret reason behind all this? Like, it would be great. I remember I'm even a fan of the Leafs back when Ali Afraidy was going bald. And there's like a famous story that all the old scribes tell where Ali Afraidy was in a scrum and his helmet popped off. And all of a sudden, there was a rugby scrum of players there. And all of a sudden, you saw Ali Afraidy's arm just kind of dart out looking for his helmet, threw the helmet back on because he didn't want the fans to know that he was kind of rocking a skullet at the time. So, good on Panarin for going full razor. I love it. I don't know if you guys saw John Cooper. We've always talked about how he's just the greatest friend of the media because of all the cool, fun stuff that he says. He can kind of fill a notebook. Well, in an interview with ESPN's Jackie Redmond in game, he was explaining why he called a timeout 4 minutes into what ended up being a 7-3 loss to the New York Rangers. His quote, "I think there's a little bit of thumb sucking going on right now," basically calling his players babies. I loved it. We've got a new segment on thehockeynews.com calling Say What, and where we're kind of breaking down the best quotes of the week. Ryan, did you have a favorite quote, whether it's this week or just in general?
Well, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go this week in honor of Larry Brooks, the iconic New York Rangers beat writer who just passed away. They talked to John Tortorella last night. Obviously, Larry Brooks and John Tortorella had kind of a rivalry going. They yelled at each other in public a number of times. But Tortorella was saying they always respected each other. And Tortorella's quote was, we would butt heads, we would have disagreements, but Larry would be at the rink the very next day to ask another question. He was always there face to face, and I always respected him for that. So that was my favorite because Larry Brooks was just an incredible hockey writer. And, it was great to see Tortorella honor him.
Yeah, I saw that too. And, that is the mark of a true professional is you ask the hard questions, you write the hard stories, but the next day you show up right in front of that person that you might have been taken to task, and you let them kind of, give it back. And Larry Brooks was, just a giant in our industry. I think that there's not a whole lot of Larry Brooks coming up in the world of journalism, guys that are not afraid to stir the pot. So very, very sad day for the hockey world. Gary, do you have a favorite quote?
I think I'll have to pay homage to pretty much every player that's ever played the game, and the intermission media, the interviews in the intermission when people say, any player that's interviewed says pucks in deep. It's an effective one. It's generic. You can get around and circumvent a lot of hard issues with that. Just pucks in deep. I'm sure someone said it this week. We should check back on that, but I'm sure it was said.
I think Confucius may have been said that first.
It goes back a while,
yeah. Hey, listen, guys, this was a great show. Obviously, for the hockey news, that's Ryan Kennedy. For BetMGM, we got Gary Pearson. I'm Michael Traikos. Thanks for joining us for the big show. We're going to see you guys next week.